The sun never shines on the polar craters of Mercury. It is odd to be in permanent shadow on a planet known for being constantly blasted by the sun, but it made sense that the polar craters would be where colonization began on Mercury. On the rest of the planet, the constant extremes of night and day put up a barrier to permanent settlement.
You use the word colonize. That's not a word a lot of people use these days, given its history.
I use it intentionally. People like to pretend that colonization of space is somehow different. They use words like expansion and exploration. They want to pretend that those in power have changed their tunes over the centuries. But I evoke the cruel history of colonization because there are parallels. Tens of thousands have died in the mines of Mercury and Venus, and they didn't all come here for the glory of scientific discovery. These are people who left Earth because of famines and war. The multiplanetary corporations, human life is cheap. Right now, Earth is a hellhole that everyone wants off, and this is the only escape. We shouldn't whitewash the history of planetary colonization. It's not all for the greater good of mankind. In fact, it's mostly about the transfer of vast amounts of material and wealth from unterraformed worlds like Mercury and Venus to habitable worlds like Earth and Mars.
So the Kandinsky Crater Crew mining team was the first of Mercury's mining teams to unionize. Recently, you've been elected the union's president. Can you tell me what has changed since the formation of the union and what will change under your administration?
I think that unions are more necessary here than they were on Earth. There are no countries in space. By default, there are no constitutions protecting your rights. Before the Kandinsky Crater Crew Union, the corporations in charge of this crater could have you killed with no consequences. It's been about changing the balance of power from those at the top to those at the bottom. Unions are the great equalizers. As for the present, my administration's goal right now is to force the Kandinsky Bach Corp to give up authority over what I consider to be public spaces. One of the biggest victories of the union was to force Kandinsky Bach to cede crew quarters and housing to the union. That was an important victory for our workers, and we don't think that the Kandinsky Bach Corp should have monopoly over all public spaces.
The Kandinsky Bach Corp has released a press statement vehemently opposing your policy. Previous strikes have led to violence and civil unrest on Mercury. Is it your intention to strike if Kandinsky Bach does not meet your demands?
You Terran journalists don't get it. You come from a world where the air you breathe is natural and free. Here, the very air we breathe is owned by the Kandinsky Bach Corp. I was elected president of this union to make sure that future generations of Mercurians have the same freedoms as those living on habitable worlds. I think this interview is over.
Thanks for listening to my short story, The Kandinsky Crater Crew. If you enjoyed this video, please consider subscribing to Our Unobservable Universe on YouTube. And sorry if this video took a little longer than usual to come out, but I hope to return to a regular schedule sometime soon.